let's see here. We got Levelhead. Levelhead, hi, Ron. I sent you my questions via Twitter, but wanted to support here also. Thank you very much for that, Levelhead. Did I answer your question? Thanks for offering your perspective on Muni broadband, fracking, and net neutrality. Chat, remember to smash that like. Thank you for that, Levelhead. And did I answer your question? Let me know if I didn't see a question from Levelhead, I don't think. But please take Levelhead's advice and smash that like button because we are close to 100. Help us get to 100, folks. And Levelhead, let me know in the chat if I answered your question. And if not, just ask it again. Let me go through the Twitter here to see if I'm getting everything. Because I want to make sure I'm getting all the questions from as many places as possible. I'll be going to Rockfin next. So Rockfin, worry not. Oh, here you are, Levelhead. I see you. Okay. Oh, this is a fun one too. This is a cool question. Here we go. Check out this question from Levelhead. Levelhead wants to know, how did you become interested in reporting on fracking oil and gas? Have you looked into the subject of T-norm, which is technically enhanced, naturally occurring radioactive material? Also, what's the best way to send you my own reporting for some feedback? Okay, well, I'll take it one at a time. How did you become interested in reporting on fracking / oil and gas? Well, I heard about the issue, and I was also at the time when fracking really started becoming more common and really started becoming prevalent. I was in Pennsylvania at the time, which is where I'm from originally. I was in Western Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh, and that is home to the Marcellus Shale. So a lot of fracking efforts were going on in Western Pennsylvania because they were trying to get, the gas from the Marcellus Shale. And that was around the time that the movie Gasland came out. And we were realizing that this is not a safe process. The appropriate science has not been done on the safety of this. And what little rewards, quote unquote, what little energy we're getting from it. First of all, most of it doesn't even stay domestic. And second of all, it's very, very, very little. The best fracking analogy I've ever heard is from a guy named Stephen Machant, who I had on this show before. He ran for office down in Florida. He has the best fracking analogy ever. He said, fracking, it's like exploding a person to try to get them to fart. That's what fracking's like. You want to get a person to fart, so you blow them up. So we shouldn't be doing it. And I was looking into all this, and it affected people around me. It affected my family. Members of my family have had their property ruined because of fracking. It's happened to members of my family. And the way these fracking companies would work is they would try to sell you. They would offer you payouts. So people did get compensated. And it was people were getting only a fraction of what they should have been getting. First of all, they were getting a lot less on what they should have been getting. But here's the situation. You go to people who are in rural parts of Pennsylvania where there's not a lot of opportunity, where the job situation is not great, and you come to them with a proposal that could be the difference in whether or not their children get to go to college. Enough people said yes. And here's the deal. If you're in a neighborhood and one of your neighbors says yes, doesn't matter if you say yes or no, because they're just going to frack everywhere anyway. If one neighbor says yes, that's all they need. They got their well. So if your neighbor says yes, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't envy anybody in that situation because your neighbor already said yes. They're already drilling on your neighbor's property. So you can either say no to them, and then they won't be on your property. But we all know the milkshake effect. There's still, you're still going to be affected. So you either say no and you still deal with all the consequences anyway, or you say yes and you still deal with all the consequences anyway, but at least you get a payout. So what are you going to do? I mean, what choice do you have, really? You really have no choice when you're in that situation. They already got the yes they needed. So I don't envy people. I don't envy people in that situation, and my heart really goes out to it. And I saw it happen over and over again. So, and I would see the propaganda from the local media and the national media. I did a report on the media when I was in grad school. I did a report on the media ecology, which is a fancy pants way of just saying like the media coverage, basically. Um, but I did a media report on fracking in Western Pennsylvania. And I wrote about how the fracking industry just became part of everybody's lives in the area. The sports teams would play at these venues named after, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Penguins, it's still called Consol Energy Center. The name might have switched, but it was Consol Energy Center. At one point, it was named after Range Resources. So these oil companies make their way into the local way of life big time, and they act like they're a friend. And then you have a very complicit media that's not really covering what's going on. And the report I did uncovered that there were over 2,800 violations committed. Now, keep in mind, the rules are already lax. The EPA is a very lax organization that got even more lax during the Trump years. So this is minimal enforcement to begin with. But even with that minimal enforcement, there were still over 2,800 violations in the year that I did my study, which was 2011. There were over 2,800 violations that weren't reported or were minimally reported. So I knew then that this is a very dangerous thing. This is something that should not be happening. And there is misinformation everywhere in regards to the safety of this. We are quite literally playing with fire. So that's how I initially got interested in fracking and natural gas issues. Natural gas issues. That's a weird way to put it. But yeah, that's so it started in Pennsylvania, and it's been with me ever since, because they're still fracking. They're still doing it. It's the only thing Joe Biden was passionate about, not banning fracking. That thing that, who gets rich off of fracking? Some oil CEOs. All the jobs, quote unquote, that it brings, they're temp jobs that actually cause more damage to a community than helps a community. So the whole economic argument is complete bullshit. The environmental argument, it's destroying the environment. There's no two ways about it. It's not safe. The whole argument, oh, we need it for our energy needs. No, we don't, because most of the energy doesn't even stay domestic. It's not doing anything for our energy needs. That's a bunch of bullshit. There's no reason for it to be happening other than lining the pockets of a couple oil CEOs. And they buy out people like Joe Biden. So that's why Joe Biden's passionate about not banning fracking. Have I looked into T-norm? I have not. I'm not. I mean, I know I had a guest on who spoke about thorium nuclear before, and I don't have, I'm open to learning more about it, but I don't have a conclusion yet one way or another. I would need to learn more personally. T-norm, I'm not familiar with. You'd have to send me some info on that. Obviously, I'm all about real sustainable solutions, So yeah. But yeah, so I'm not familiar with that. Also, what's the best way to send you my own reporting for some feedback? Email is always the best way to send me anything. Email is always the best way. Sometimes people will message me randomly on a social media platform, and I never see it because it goes to filtered messages, and I never freaking see it. There are people, I mean, I didn't even know I had a filtered message thing on Instagram until like recently. So I had a bunch of messages I never saw. Facebook, I seldom go on Facebook. Facebook, my rule is just like Twitter, except even more strict. I only go on Facebook to post something. That's the only time I go on Facebook. I don't engage on Facebook. I mean, and if I do, it's usually something family or friend related. It's usually I'll post on something that one of my high school or college buddies posted, or something like a picture of my baby cousin, my baby cousin Kyla. I'll, like my cousins will post pictures of her. The one is my cousin, one my cousin by, yeah, you know what I mean by that. Like, They're all my family now, but my cousins were not cousins who married each other. I had a cousin who married a person. You get it. I'm over explaining it, but anyway, I usually that's really the only thing. My cousin, my cousin and his dogs and his kid. That's the only thing I do on on Facebook. That's the only thing that makes me smile on Facebook. And usually I get that same content on Instagram, but sometimes it's like easier on Facebook, and more of my family engages on Facebook because they're more Facebook. I don't know why I'm playing with a pen right now, by the way, but yeah, that's the only thing. So I guess to make a yeah, I feel like I already answered your question, but now I'm just rambling on about social media. But yeah, I don't. So a lot of time, if you've ever messaged me, and this is just a general, if you've ever messaged me on Facebook or Instagram, especially, and I never got back to you, I never saw it. If you tweeted something at me, there's a good chance that my timeline just got crowded with other stuff before I saw it. So if you really want me to see something, email it to me. Uh, when you go to ronplacone.com, there's this thing that says contact. You click it, you fill out the form, it goes right to me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. So yeah, feel free to email me anytime, and I will get back to you. Sometimes it takes me a minute, and sometimes you may need to nudge me again. But yeah, I'll totally get back to you. So thank you for that level head. Thank you very much for that. Zippity day. Where can we read your Pennsylvania fracking report? Damn, that is a great question. That I wish I had an answer. So this was a paper I did in grad school. So one of my old computers, it's not published anywhere. Now I do have a paper that I wrote that did get published. What was that journal called? Shit. A paper of mine. This is actually a fun fact about me, I guess. I have a paper published in the Journal of Contemporary Rhetoric, which is an academic journal that I'm assuming is still around. I don't even know, to tell you the truth. It's not my fracking report, though. It's a different paper that I wrote, but it's the only paper I ever did that got published, because most grad students don't get published. I actually got a little lucky that I was able to get published as a grad. Usually people don't get published until they're, on en route to getting a PhD, which I was just a master's, or they already have a PhD and they're a working academic. But I did get published during my master's program. It was in the Journal of Contemporary Rhetoric. If you want to try to find that online, you might be able to. I don't know, to tell you the truth. Here's what I do know. I'm in a communication textbook. I don't remember the name of the text. It's just a communication textbook where they used my article in a textbook. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know this. They can do that, and they don't need to let you know or give you. I mean, they give you credit in the what do you call them? The end notes, but the footnotes. But they don't have to. I mean, they don't owe you a dime, and they don't even have to tell you, because they didn't tell me. I found out from my co-author, because he's an academic. He's a professor still. And he told me. He sent it to me. He goes, hey, check this out. Now, here's the fun part. I looked at this textbook thing, and I read, they had my article. And then you know how after in a textbook, they'll have reading comprehension questions. They had those reading comprehension questions, and they asked a question about my article, and I had no idea what the fuck the answer was. I read the question. The question literally said, what is Placone inferring here with da 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 da? And I read it, and I'm like, I wrote the paper. I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. I don't know. What was Placone inferring? He doesn't care. If any student wrote that, technically they'd be correct. You couldn't hold it against them if they wrote, he doesn't give a shit. What is Placone infer? Placone does not care at all. And then they could cite this video. You'd have to give them an A. I'm Placone. I'm the Placone in this scenario. I don't care. If I took your class and you gave me that question, I'd be like, he doesn't care. I just asked him. He doesn't give a shit. Placone doesn't care about your question. Sorry. Are you listening, students everywhere? If you get that random communication textbook that I don't remember the name of, and there's that question, and it says, what is Placone inferring? He doesn't know. He doesn't care. He thinks that your question is kind of bullshit. Sorry. Give that student an A. They nailed it. They nailed it. And that's why when I was a professor, I wasn't a professor. I was an instructor. I'm sorry. I don't have a PhD, so I'm not a professor, but I taught community college. I never gave those types of assignments to my students because my logic was, if I don't give a shit about this stuff and I think it's pointless, why would I make you guys pretend to care? We're not going to learn this way. We're not going to learn this way. I used the textbook a little bit. I'm not going to say I never used it, but I never did the whole, fill out these reading comprehension questions. Let's go through them together. This is college. This isn't fourth grade. Why are you still doing fourth grade tasks in freaking college? That's another thing. What is Placone inferring? Why are you doing these stupid fourth grade tasks in college? How about you have them? Yeah, anyway. So instead, I would throw them to the wolves in a good way. I'd be like, hey, this is speech communication class. We're going to start out each class with spar debates. You're the affirmative. You're the negative. Here's the topic. You got 5 minutes to prepare, and then you're getting up in front of the class. That's what you're going to do. Because public speaking is a lot like, again, it's kind of like streaming a show or like comedy. You get better by doing it. You can read about make eye contact. Make sure you're assertive. You can do that all. You can read that until you're blue in the face. Unless you go up and do it, it's not going to do shit for you. You're just going to memorize a bunch of bullshit in a textbook. Anyway. So thank you for that question. By the way, the podcast about my former life as an academic is coming out. I'm actually real excited about this podcast. So Tina Desiree Berg and myself both have former lives as academics that we never really talk about. Well, except for I'm talking about it right now because y'all are asking me about it. But we don't talk about it much. So we're making a podcast about it where we talk about political theory and philosophy and how it applies to your everyday life, and we break it down in a way that goes beyond the academic jargon and explains why these concepts are very accessible for everybody and should be, because it's really important in how you consume information in your life. Epistemology is a $12 word, but all it really is the process of learning. And it's an incredibly useful tool when you're getting your news each day. That's a connection that a bunch of academics don't bother making because they'd rather just use the $12 word. But I'm interested in making it, and that's what our podcast is all about. I hope you'll all check it out. Academy Refugees. I should get the name right. I'll work on that. But it's called Academy Refugees. It'll be available wherever you get your podcast, and it's going to premiere first video on Rockfin. The video on Rockfin. I have cat hair on my face. So, yeah, I'm scratching my face. But, yeah, zippity day. To make a long answer longer, that fracking report is on an old computer. I don't even know if I have it anymore. I'm sure I could dig it up, and maybe I'll post it for patrons or something. I mean, it's kind of old, so I'm not I don't know how much I stand by the work anymore. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's how I got into it in the first place. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron.